Count 1, malice murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury, I find the defendant guilty.
What happened to Laken Riley was absolutely disgusting, and this is why her murderer was found guilty on all 10 counts today. But what's even more disgusting is what this ABC News journalist did today, which was try to blame Trump for the murder itself, which is totally unhinged and quite frankly is disrespectful to the family. So we're going to do a video on it and rip into this guy. Now, to pay respects to the actual family itself, let's hear the verdict being read out loud.
Ibarra, illegal alien, accused of killing Laken Riley, hearing the verdict now. Let's watch.
Count 1, malice murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder, I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury, I find the defendant guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault with intent to rape, I find the defendant guilty. Count 7, aggravated battery, I find the defendant guilty. Count 8, obstructing or hindering a 911 call, I find the defendant guilty. Count 9, tampering with evidence, I find the defendant guilty. Count 10, peeping Tom, I find the defendant guilty.
So we are so grateful that this has become the end result. Now, there are definitely people on social media within their own right, and in some respects, I definitely agree with them that this guy should have definitely gotten the delete penalty, right? I don't want to say the word because, you know, YouTube might get a little too sensitive here, but I think you guys know what I mean. But the murderer is going away for life without the possibility of parole. So at least something has been done. So it begs the question, why would ABC take the time out right now to try to play political games and blame Trump for this tragedy? Well, here is that ABC reporter doing the unthinkable. Watch.
This death of Laken Riley and the subsequent trial has essentially been a massive political lightning rod here in this country. And you said it there yourself, the president-elect campaigning on the death of Laken Riley and pointing to the current administration, saying that their laws and what they're calling failed policies contributed to Laken Riley's death.
Okay, this guy is pathetic, right? What do you mean that's what Trump is saying? No, that's what the numbers say. That's what the results say. That's what all of these families who had their loved ones taken away from them from illegal migrants have said. So don't make this about political games, all right? This is just disgusting.
I want to remind you that Ibarra entered this country illegally in 2022, according to law enforcement officials, and he was paroled and released for further processing by ICE. And since that time he entered the country, he was arrested another time. Law enforcement officers saying that he was arrested in 2023 in New York City and charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17, as well as a motor vehicle violation. But it's important to note that although there is very little evidence indicating a connection between immigration and violent crime.
Okay, so we have to stop here because, guys, I could barely contain myself here. This is what makes you hate the media right here, okay? Number one, there is an increase of crime. The FBI has come out and stated that they cooked the books. Additionally, there's a lot of crime not even being taken seriously because there's nothing that they could do to them. They can't deport them, right? The laws that these illegal migrants are subjected to are not the same laws that me and you are. And this guy is saying out loud what the problem is. Why would the guy be allowed to enter the country again? And again, why was he not deported? Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is still something the President-elect Trump, several Republicans on the Hill wanted to essentially plant their flag on and point that to the current Biden administration. And we saw that even as early as President Biden's latest State of the Union address, where Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene infamously interrupted President Biden, forcing him to acknowledge the death of Laken Riley, something that President Biden did by holding up a pin in her during that State of the Union.
Okay, so I want you guys to be a little patient with me, and I'll be honest, this does make me a little emotional, okay? This freaking clown, a joke, the nerve of this reporter, this low-life anchor, to say the least, to go on the news and talk this way when the verdict is being read. I mean, you'd think he'd have a little bit more respect and decency. Maybe hold off for a week and then probably read something like that and make your little opinionated claims. And that is exactly why I do not follow the legacy media and believe anything that they're saying. I'd rather do my own research, which brings me to today's sponsor, Ground News. Head over to ground.news/Devori to check them out today. All right, so let me show you how this thing works. So I looked up this story that we're talking about in this video today about Laken Riley's murderer, right? Well, it will bring in all of the articles from each of the media outlets, and then it organizes it across the political spectrum. So you've got articles that lean left and then articles that lean right. Now, here's an article from the Washington Post that clearly leans left. Venezuela national found guilty of murder in Laken Riley's trial. Jose Ibarra, an undocumented immigrant, was accused of killing a University of Georgia nursing student in a trial that Republicans made a flashpoint on immigration. And then here's an article that leans right. A legal immigrant convicted of killing Laken Riley sentenced to life in prison without parole. So if you heard exactly what I just said, there's a difference in the reporting. There's a clear bias, which is why every single story comes with a biased distribution score that tells you which way does this story lean the most? Does it lean left or does it lean right? And another powerful feature is called blind spot. These are stories that are disproportionately reported by one side of the political spectrum. That's why I love Ground News, and you will too. All you have to do is go to the link in the description below my pinned comment or scan the QR code. It will take you over to ground.news/Devori and give you 50% off the Vantage plan. That'll give you access to everything we covered in this video and your ability to do your own research.
It is important to note that all of this vitriol that we're hearing from Republicans and President-elect Trump regarding the policies of the Biden administration, it's important to know that President-elect Trump did force Republicans to essentially tank a bipartisan border security bill that both sides of the aisle said would have essentially addressed border security and immigration issues, Kira.
Okay, so I want you guys to be a little patient with me, and I'll be honest, this does make me a little emotional, okay? This freaking clown, a joke, the nerve of this reporter, this low-life anchor, to say the least, to go on the news and talk this way when the verdict is being read. I mean, you'd think he'd have a little bit more respect and decency. Maybe hold off for a week and then probably read something like that and make your little opinionated claims. But when you're talking about someone who was ruthlessly murdered and it was an act that could have been prevented, there is no such thing as, well, this is overblown. You know, Republicans are trying to capitalize on this. No, it's the reality. And the reality is we had a vegetable in the White House who repealed every single executive order that actually secured the border and pretty much made it a free-for-all. And as a result, it leaves people subjected to crimes from illegal migrants. Any person who is minimizing that or claiming there is no connection should definitely be removed from the news. Absolutely. Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I would call misinformation. Now, here's what Trump put on X. Justice for Laken Riley. The illegal who killed our beloved Laken Riley was just found guilty on all counts for his horrific crimes. Although the pain and heartbreak will last forever, hopefully this can help bring some peace and closure to her wonderful family who fought for justice, and to ensure that other families don't have to go through what they have. We love you, Laken, and our hearts will always be with you. It is time to secure our border and remove these criminals and thugs from our country so nothing like this can happen again. Just all straight up facts. What you would want to hear from the commander-in-chief, the president, the leader of the free world. You'd want to hear someone who's taking a stand and definitely supporting American citizens who are hurting and not placing the lives of illegal migrants above American citizens. All right, now let me kick this over to you guys. Do you guys agree with the actual verdict itself where he received life without parole? Or do you believe there's a more appropriate sentence for this murderer? That's number one. Number two, what do you think should happen to that ABC News anchor? You know, and what he had to say. Would you like to see ABC's license revoked? Share some ideas in the comment section below, because I just think this is one of the most disgusting things that they could do. I would understand maybe next week of them saying something like this, but man, on the day of, minutes after the verdict, just shameful. Okay, so another shameful thing today was from this professor who prides himself as being an election guru. He knows how to predict elections. There's only one problem. He predicted Kamala Harris would win. Clearly, she lost. Well, this clown refuses to accept defeat, does not see anything wrong with his 13 keys is what he calls them. But a left-wing media host by the name of Chink Uger is there every step of the way to remind him of how stupid this guy really is. If you guys want to see me react to that, all you have to do is click on the video because it's coming up right now.